Hello, I'm Jill Valley. Thank you for joining us for this special news report on MTN. A week of tensions at the Montana House has brought us to this moment. Representatives are meeting right now to consider possible disciplinary action against one of its members, Missoula Representative Zooey Zephyr. Now, this comes 2 days after protests at the Capitol ended in the gallery, interrupting House debates. Zephyr is a Democrat and a transgender woman, and she's not been allowed to speak on the floor since last week after Republicans objected to comments she made over a ban on gender-affirming care for transgender youth.
And the only thing I will say is if you vote yes on this bill and yes on these amendments, I hope the next time there's an invocation, when you bow your heads in prayer, you see the blood on your hands.
On Monday, Zephyr was again not allowed to speak, and that is when protesters in the gallery started chanting, "Let her speak." Then a law enforcement civil disobedience team eventually cleared the gallery. 7 people were arrested, 6 from Missoula and 1 from Great Falls. House Speaker Matt Regier spoke to reporters for just over a minute Tuesday morning, while House Minority Leader Kim Abbott also addressed this situation.
Headlines that have happened over the last week stating that the Montana House leadership or GOP has silenced anyone is false. Currently, all representatives are free to participate in House debates while following the House rules. The choice to not follow House rules is one that Representative Zephyr has made.
So I was not surprised that there were protests. I think Montanans know what's fair and what's not fair. And what we've seen is, a duly elected public official not being recognized on the floor to engage in free debate that disenfranchises her community, her constituents.
Now to circle back to today's events, the leaders of the Montana House released a statement just last night referencing Zephyr's actions while protesters were in the gallery Monday. The statement reads in part, "The motion will be made pursuant to the House of Representatives' authority under Article 5, Section 10 of the Montana Constitution for the body to determine if the representative from House District 100's conduct on the floor of the House April 24th violated the rules, collective rights, safety, dignity, integrity, or decorum of the House of Representatives, and if so, whether to impose disciplinary consequences for those actions." Now, Representative Zephyr remained on the House floor while protesters were removed from the gallery, and that is what today's gathering in the House is focusing on. So in response to the announcement last night, Representative Zephyr shared a message to social media saying she was informed there will be a motion to either censure or expel her. The statement continued, "I've also been told I'll get a chance to speak. I will do as I have always done, rise on behalf of my constituents in defense of my community for democracy itself." So for some context, to censure someone is to issue a public statement of disapproval based on their actions. Expulsion is a step further. Well, the representative would be removed from their position, and it is unclear how the legislative session schedule will impact the process if Representative Zephyr is expelled. The 90th day is May 10th, and that is when they're supposed to adjourn. It's important to note the House gallery is closed to the public during this meeting, but we are broadcasting it live for you to follow, so let's go there now.
A quorum is present and the House is ready for business. Members, before we get to introductions, just to note we will be doing third reading first today. Are there any introductions? Representative Caleb Hinkle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to be off the record and out of the journal for the purpose of an announcement.
So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday was my brother's birthday. I'd like to wish a happy birthday to the representative of seat 78.
Happy birthday. Representative Tanner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request to be off the record and out of the journal for purpose of an announcement.
So ordered.
Today is my mom's birthday. She's watching back in Hamilton. Happy birthday, Mom. I love you. Bye-bye.
Happy birthday.
See no more introductions. Order business number 1, communications and petitions.
None, Mr. Speaker.
Order business number 2, reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Appropriations recommend that Senate Bills 516, 535 be concurred in, 529 be concurred in as amended. Signed, Representative Lou Jones, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Agriculture recommend that House Joint Resolution 27 do pass. Signed, Representative Joshua Kazmaier, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Energy, Technology, and Federal Relations recommend that House Joint Resolutions 19 and 36 do pass, 26 and 37 do pass as amended. Signed, Representative Katie Zolnikov, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Human Services recommend that House Joint Resolution 38 do pass. Signed, Representative Jennifer Carlson, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Natural Resources recommend that House Joint Resolution 39 do pass. Signed, Representative Steve Gunderson, Chair. That is all, Mr. Speaker.
Order business number 3, reports of select committees.
Mr. Speaker, your conference committee met and considered House amendments to Senate Bill 19 and recommend this conference committee be adopted. Signed for the House, Representative Bishop, Representative Lear, Representative A. Regier. That is all, Mr. Speaker.
Order business number 4, messages from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker, I'm directed by the Senate to inform the House of Representatives of the following actions. House amendments to the following were concurred in on third reading. SB 144 Temple, 151 Lenz, 169 Hertz, 195 Trebus, 219 Curdy, 278 Fitzpatrick, 328 Lenz, 359 Vermeer, 375 Lang, 384 Zolnikov, 487 Vance, 490 Hertz, SJ9 Gillespie, Senate Bill 75 Fitzpatrick, 93 Cuff, 397 Bogner, 425 Small, 445 Bogner, 498 Morgeau, 499 McGilvery. The Senate failed to concur with House amendments to the following. Senate Bill 148 Lenz, 370 Fitzpatrick. The Senate failed to concur in the House amendments to Senate Bill 59, and by motion the President was authorized to appoint a conference committee and request the House appoint a like committee to confer with House amendments to Senate Bill 59. The President appointed the following members: Senator Fitzpatrick, Chair, President Ellsworth, and Senator Morgeau. The following House bills were on this day read through several times, concurred in title and history, agreed to, and are herewith returned to the House. House Bill 7 Hopkins, 9 Hopkins, 11 Fitzpatrick, 12 Hopkins, 845 Carlin, 886 Fitzgerald, 928 Fitzpatrick, 938 Kazmaier, 947 Nikolakakos, 968 A. Regier. The following House bills were on this day read through several times, concurred in as amended, title and history agreed to, and are herewith returned to the House for concurrence in Senate amendments. House Bill 10 Hopkins, 101 Gillette, 852 Konauer, 941 Frazier, 91 Sprunger, 382 Oblender, 482 Gillette, 867 Buttry. The following House bills were not concurred in on third reading, and the bills are herewith returned to the House. House Bill 517 Hopkins, 915 Mercer. The Senate, on motion duly carried, dissolved the Conference Committee on House Amendments to Senate Bill 59. The Senate failed to concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 531, and by motion the President was authorized to appoint a conference committee and request the House appoint a like committee to confer on House amendments to Senate Bill 531. The President appointed the following members: Senator Solomon, Chair; Senator Small; Senator Hayman. The Senate failed to concur in House amendments to Senate Bill 221, and by motion the President was authorized to appoint a conference committee and request the House appoint a like committee to confer on House amendments to Senate Bill 221. The President appointed the following members: Senator Usher, Chair; Senator Manzella; Senator Olson. The Senate, on duly motion carried, dissolved the conference committee on House amendments to Senate Bill 351, and the President, by motion, was authorized to appoint a free conference committee and request the House appoint a like committee. The President appointed the following members: Senator Zolnikov, Chair; Senator Bogner; Senator Olson. The Senate acceded to the request of the House and has authorized the President to appoint a conference committee to meet with like committee from the House on Senate amendments to House Bill 317. The President appointed the following members: Senator Small, Chair; Senator McGilvery; Senator Weber. The Senate acceded to the request of the House and has authorized the President to appoint a conference committee to meet with a like committee from the House on Senate amendments to House Bill 338. The President appointed the following members: Senator Small, Chair; Senator Solomon; Senator O'Brien. The Senate acceded to the request of the House and has authorized the President to appoint a free conference committee to meet with a like committee from the House on Senate amendments to House Bill 576. The President appointed the following members: Senator Usher, Chair; Senator Small; Senator Dunwell. Sincerely, Marilyn Miller, Secretary of the Senate. That is all, Mr. Speaker.
Order business number 5, messages from the Governor.
None, Mr. Speaker. None, Mr. Speaker.
Order business number 6, first reading commitment of bills.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Joint Resolution 19 has been read first time and referred to committee. All are posted. That is all, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection, we'll move to order business number 8, third reading of bills.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 35, introduced by Brewster, a bill for an act entitled Remove Appointed Members and Allow Ex Officio Members on County Road, Water, Sewer Board.
House Bill 35 has been read three several times. The question is, shall the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 98 representatives have voted aye, 0 have voted no.
House Bill 35 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 62, introduced by Mercer, a bill for an act entitled Generally Revised Laws Related to Bail Bonds.
House Bill 62 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 94 representatives have voted aye, 5 have voted no.
House Bill 62 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 95, introduced by Buttry, a bill for an act entitled Generally Revised Laws Related to Alcohol.
House Bill 95 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 92 representatives have voted aye, 7 have voted no.
House Bill 95 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 118, introduced by Bertolio, a bill for an act entitled Revised Warrant of Distraint as Statewide Lien for Certain Funds.
House Bill 118 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 94 representatives have voted aye, 5 have voted no.
House Bill 118 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 164, introduced by Harvey, a bill for an act entitled Revised Alcohol Laws Relating to Catering Endorsements.
House Bill 164 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 83 representatives have voted aye, 16 have voted no.
House Bill 164 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 190, introduced by Mercer, a bill for an act entitled Provide for a State Government Performance and Results Act.
House Bill 190 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 91 representatives have voted aye, 8 have voted no.
House Bill 190 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 196, introduced by Hellegard, a bill for an act entitled Revised Election Laws Related to the Counting of Votes.
House Bill 196 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 71 representatives have voted aye, 28 have voted no.
House Bill 196 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 198, introduced by Dooling, a bill for an act entitled Provide for Municipal Authority Regarding Encroachments.
House Bill 198 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 98 representatives have voted aye, 0 have voted no.
House Bill 198 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 218, introduced by L. Smith, a bill for an act entitled Revised Private Alternative Adolescent Residential or Outdoor Programs Laws.
House Bill 218 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 84 representatives have voted aye, 15 have voted no.
House Bill 218 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 234, introduced by Phelan, a bill for an act entitled Revised Dissemination of Obscene Materials to Minor Laws.
House Bill 234 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 66 representatives have voted aye, 33 have voted no.
House Bill 234 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 322, introduced by C. Hinkle, a bill for an act entitled Generally Revised Laws Related to Standing Masters.
House Bill 322 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 81 representatives have voted aye, 18 have voted no.
House Bill 322 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 333, introduced by Oblender, a bill for an act entitled Generally Revised Motorized Recreation Laws.
House Bill 333 has been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 97 representatives have voted aye, 1 has voted no.
House Bill 333 is passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 452, introduced by Mercer, a bill for an act entitled Generally Revised Uniform Trust and Probate Codes.
House Bill 452 have been read 3 several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 99 representatives have voted aye, 0 have voted no.
House Bill 452 is passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 455, introduced by Mitchell, a bill for an act entitled Revised Alcohol Laws Relating to Certain Products.
House Bill 455 have been read 3 several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 81 representatives have voted aye, 18 have voted no.
House Bill 455 is passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 470, introduced by Fitzgerald, a bill for an act entitled Revise Yield Slowdown Move Over Laws.
House Bill 470 have been read 3 several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 99 representatives have voted aye, 0 have voted no.
House Bill 470 is passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 477, introduced by Sir Paraguay, a bill for an act entitled Generally Revised Corporation Laws Regarding Tribal Entities.
House Bill 477 have been read 3 several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 80 representatives have voted aye, 19 have voted no.
House Bill 477 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 486, introduced by Green, a bill for an act entitled Generally Revised County Road Access Laws.
House Bill 486 have been read 3 several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 87 representatives have voted aye, 12 have voted no.
House Bill 486 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 580, introduced by Mercer, a bill for an act entitled Impose Reporting Requirements for State Agencies and Departments.
House Bill 580 have been read 3 several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 91 representatives have voted aye, 8 have voted no.
House Bill 580 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 591, introduced by Buttry, a bill for an act entitled Implementing Travel Insurance Model Act.
House Bill 591 have been read 3 several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 99 representatives have voted aye, 0 have voted no.
House Bill 591 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 668, introduced by Fitzgerald, a bill for an act entitled Revised Service Contract Laws Related to Motor Vehicles and Theft.
House Bill 668 have been read 3 several times. The question is, shall the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 99 representatives have voted aye, 0 have voted no.
House Bill 668 has been passed by the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 689, introduced by Sheldon Galloway, a bill for an act entitled Revised Probation Parole Supervision Laws.
House Bill 689 have been read 3 several times. The question is, shall the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 70 representatives have voted aye, 29 have voted no.
House Bill 689 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 707, introduced by Etchart, a bill for an act entitled Allow Certain Elementary Districts to Create New High School District.
House Bill 707 have been read 3 several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 99 representatives have voted aye, 0 have voted no.
House Bill 707 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, House Bill 889, introduced by Carlin, a bill for an act entitled Revise the Residential Mobile Home Lot Rental Act.
House Bill 889 have been read 3 several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 68 representatives have voted aye, 31 have voted no.
House Bill 889 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, H.J. 18, introduced by Carlin, a bill for an act entitled Joint Resolution to Study Remediation of Smurfit Stone Mill Site.
HJ 18 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 88 representatives have voted aye, 11 have voted no.
HJ 18 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, H.J. 20, introduced by Matthews, a bill for an act entitled Request Interim Study of Including Regional Cost Adjustments to School Funding.
HJ 20 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 76 representatives have voted aye, 23 have voted no.
HJ 20 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 11, introduced by Usher, a bill for an act entitled Generally Revised Criminal Justice System Laws.
Senate Bill 11 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 96 representatives have voted aye, 3 have voted no.
Senate Bill 11 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 182, introduced by Lenz, a bill for an act entitled Create Task Force on a Court System for Dependency and Neglect Cases.
Senate Bill 182 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 86 representatives have voted aye, 13 have voted no.
Senate Bill 182 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 209, introduced by Hertz, a bill for an act entitled Revised Laws Relating to Montana Distilleries.
Senate Bill 209 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 91 representatives have voted aye, 8 have voted no.
Senate Bill 209 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 334, introduced by ESP, a bill for an act entitled Revised Petroleum Storage Tank Cleanup Definitions.
Senate Bill 334 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 95 representatives have voted aye, 4 have voted no.
Senate Bill 334 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 352, introduced by Lenz, a bill for an act entitled Create Task Force to Modify and Improve the Child Protective Services System.
Senate Bill 352 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 94 representatives have voted aye, 5 have voted no.
Senate Bill 352 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 442, introduced by Lang, a bill for an act entitled Allow Marijuana Tax Revenue to be Used for County Road Maintenance.
Senate Bill 442 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 82 representatives have voted aye, 17 have voted no.
Senate Bill 442 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 522, introduced by Zolnikov, a bill for an act entitled Provide Hotels with Grants to Shelter Victims of Violence and Human Trafficking.
Senate Bill 522 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 96 representatives have voted aye, 0 have voted no.
Senate Bill 522 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 530, introduced by Hertz, a bill for an act entitled Generally Revised Taxation of New, Expanded, or Improved Industrial Property.
Senate Bill 530 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 83 representatives have voted aye, 16 have voted no.
Senate Bill 530 has passed the House.
Mr. Speaker, Senate Bill 550, introduced by Hertz, a bill for an act entitled Generally Revise Income Tax Laws and Clarify Income Tax Reform Provisions.
Senate Bill 550 have been read three several times. The question is, should the bill be passed by the House? All those in favor vote aye, and those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change his or her vote? If not, the clerk will record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 93 representatives have voted aye, 6 have voted no.
Senate Bill 550 has passed the House.
That is all, Mr. Speaker.
Order business number 9, motions. Majority Leader Vinton.
Mr. Speaker, I move to re-refer Senate Bill 481, require cast vote records, to the Appropriations Committee. Mr. Speaker.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I move to re-refer Senate Bill 536, provide funding for local government road maintenance, to the Appropriations Committee. Mr. Speaker.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Speaker accede to the request of the Senate and be authorized to appoint a conference committee to meet with a like committee from the Senate to confer on House amendments to Senate Bill 221 by Senator Usher. Senate Bill 221 was in House Transportation Committee. The bill title is Allow USS Montana Crew to Apply for License Plates.
Without objection, so ordered. I appoint the following members: Representative Logie, Representative Dooley, and Representative Fern.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Speaker accede to the request of the Senate and be authorized to appoint a free conference committee to meet with a like committee from the Senate to confer on House amendments to Senate Bill 351 by Senator Zolnikoff. Senate Bill 351 was in House Energy Committee. The bill title is Generally Revised Privacy Laws Related to Biometric Data.
Without objection, so ordered. I appoint the following members: Representative Zolnikoff, Representative Caleb Hinkle, and Representative Sullivan.
Mr. Speaker, I move that pursuant to Article 5, Section 10, Sub 1 of the Montana Constitution, the House of Representatives finds that the representative from House District Number 100 clearly violated the rules, collective rights, safety, dignity, integrity, and decorum of the House of Representatives on the floor of the House on April 24th, 2023. Based upon this finding, the representative shall be disciplined, and the terms of this discipline are as follows. The representative from House District Number 100 will no longer be admitted to this floor, House anteroom, or House gallery. The representative has the option to continue to participate remotely by voting only in floor proceedings via the process currently in place for the duration of the session until the 68th legislature adjourns sine die. Mr. Speaker.
Members, the process will proceed as follows. The majority leader will open on the motion. Following, the representative from House District 100 will have an opportunity to make remarks. We will then have 3 proponents and 3 opponents. Each member will have 5 minutes to speak, and then the motion sponsor can close. Without objection, Majority Leader Vinton, would you open on your motion?
Mr. Speaker and members, the oath of each individual member and that member's duty under it is to act conscientiously for the general good. Pursuant to Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure, every member of a legislature is presumed to be the equal of each member, and each has rights that must be respected. The rights of the minority and the majority both must be protected. Freedom in this body involves obedience to all the rules of this body, including the rules of decorum. Mason's Section 121, Sub 2 states, "No person may participate in conduct that disrupts or disturbs the orderly proceedings of the body." Mason's Section 561, Sub 1 states, "A legislative body has the right to regulate the conduct of its members and may discipline a member as it deems appropriate." Monday, this body witnessed one of its members participating in conduct that disrupted and disturbed the orderly proceedings of this body. This member did not accede to the order of the Speaker to come to order and finally to clear the floor, and instead encouraged the continuation of the disruption of this body, placing legislators, staff, and even our pages at risk of harm. For these reasons, it is my motion that the representative from House District Number 100 will no longer be admitted to this floor, House anteroom, or House gallery for the duration of the session until the 68th legislature adjourns sine die. Mr. Speaker.
Representative Zephyr, would you like 5 minutes to make remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my honor today, as with every day in this body, to rise on behalf of my constituents in House District 100 from Missoula, Montana, who elected me to be their representative in the People's House. Today, I rise in defense of those constituents, of my community, and of democracy itself. Last week, I spoke on the governor's amendments to Senate Bill 99, which banned gender-affirming care. This was a bill that was one of many targeting the LGBTQ community in Montana. This legislature has systematically attacked that community. We have seen bills targeting our art forms, our books, our history, and our health care. And I rose up in defense of my community that day, speaking to harms that these bills bring and that I have firsthand experience knowing about. I have had friends who have taken their lives because of these bills. I have fielded calls from families in Montana, including one family whose trans teenager attempted to take her life while watching a hearing on one of the anti-trans bills. And in that hearing, our caucus pleaded with the Republican chair of the Judiciary Committee to not allow certain testimony, to keep decorum. And we were told a lot of people have a lot of opinions on these things. So when I rose up and said, there is blood on your hands, I was not being hyperbolic. I was speaking to the real consequences of the votes that we as legislators take in this body. And when the speaker asks me to apologize, what he is, on behalf of decorum, what he is really asking me to do is be silent when my community is facing bills that get us killed. He is asking me to be complicit in this legislature's eradication of our community, and I refuse to do so, and I will always refuse to do so. I would also say that if you use decorum to silence people who hold you accountable, then in the name of all you are doing is using decorum as a tool of oppression. Additionally, when the speaker disallowed me to speak, what he was doing is taking away the voices of the 11,000 Montanans who elected me to speak on their behalf. And when I continued to not be recognized, what my constituents in my community did is came here and said, that is our voice in this body. Let her speak. Let her speak. And when the speaker gavelled down the people demanding that democracy work, demanding that their representative be heard, when he gavelled down, what he was doing is driving a nail in the coffin of democracy. But you cannot kill democracy that easily. And that is why they kept chanting, let her speak. And why I raised my microphone to amplify their voices, to make sure that the people who elected me here are heard. And that when this body seeks to pass bills that harm our community, that get us killed, that this body is held accountable for those actions. I'm not sure what comes next here, but what I will say is I will do what I have always done. I will rise in support of my community. I will take the hard and moral choice and stand up in defense of the people who elected me to do so and the people in our communities. And I will say I'm grateful for those who stood up in defense of democracy on Monday. And I will also say that I hear everyone. I hear my constituents. I hear your constituents
1 minute.
who say thank you for standing up. And while there were comments about safety, I would say that the protest was peaceful. And I would also say that when we talk safety, we think about the safety that our bills bring or don't bring. Because you say there was staff in danger, but I know in this building, in the quiet hallways when it's just me, the staff come up to me and they say thank you. Say thank you for defending our community, because they have loved ones who these bills attack, who these bills hurt. And I will always stand up for them, and I will always, no matter what happens today, stand up for democracy in the state of Montana. Thank you.
Representative Winnie Boy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to speak on the motion before us from a different point of view. You know, we're talking about some of the things about the trans community throughout not only the state of Montana, but also throughout the country and beyond into Canada. You know, the community that I represent does have trans in my community. And to some tribes, we call them two-spirit people. My late uncle, who was one of my teachers, one of my mentors in my way of life, has always told me one thing to keep in mind, that no matter who we are, that we are all equal under the eyes of Almighty. And always remember, he said, when you point your finger at somebody, look how many is pointing back. And so when you take that into context, that with this thing here that's before us, there's a lot of events that happen not only in this body, but over in the body of the Senate in the last 21 years, as well as the 21 years and 11 sessions I've seen here. This is nothing compared to some of the events that occurred that we're making this as egregious as they are. We had a Democrat leader that sat right in that third row there, fourth row, almost go fisticuffs with the representative on the other party on the other side over there. And the Great Falls Tribune even has pictures in the gallery that had them going at it. That was uncalled for. That was so much unrest here. Why weren't they taken to the level of this? Maybe it was because of whatever situation that was at the time. And even over in the Senate, there was votes that were taken, there were bills that were on the floor, that we were in the minority been silenced. And we got up and we hit the desk. We almost got charged for messing up the state's property. Why weren't we disciplined at that time? We should have. I would have went to jail because I would have been found guilty. But at the same time, we are picking one person in this body for something that she believes is right. The one situation that she stands to represent the same amount of people that I represent, the same amount of people that she represents, he represents, she represents, down the line. But yet we stand in solidarity with each other to the level of where we should get along. That's what it is. In the last, since 2016, that's when the whole country had gone so far right, so far left to the values that just pits one against the other. And exactly the same verbiage that my colleague here is being in a situation where she can't come in here. There's a Florida congressman who said the same words last week. Why hasn't the Congress disciplined him? What we're doing to my colleague here. What's good for them should be good for us, vice versa. So I think that we need to just put this behind us, let her represent the people that she represents. Let's get on and let's do the people's work, what they sent us here for. Vote no.
Representative Casey Knudsen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the 68th Legislature, one of the most important rights of any legislative body is the right to regulate the conduct of its members, as well as discipline a member as the body deems appropriate. The state legislative body possesses inherent rights of self-protection, which is reflected in our own House rules in the definition of a question of privilege, which includes anything that affects the collective rights, safety, dignity, and integrity of the House. Our state constitution provides that either House may punish a member with good cause shown, with the concurrence of 2/3 of all of its members. Our state constitution, our House rules, and Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure all reinforce the fact that this House, this body, holds dear the right to self-protection. We today are exercising this right based on the inappropriate behavior on the House floor of the representative from House District 100 on April 24th, 2023. This behavior violated the collective rights and safety of 99 other members of this body, our staff, our pages, and the public. And based on this showing of good cause, I would recommend a yes vote on the motion to discipline the representative from House District 100. Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I hope no one is expecting any jokes from me today, because I think what we're doing here is deeply, deeply serious. I want to echo my friend and colleague in seat 31 and remind us why we're here. We're here because we are struggling with a debate that we have had from the beginning of this session on a set of bills. Bills that directly and daily impact the LGBT community. I will remind the body that not one Democrat brought any of those bills. We did not go to look for that fight. But when it came to us, we did what we had to do. We did our job. We stood up. We stood with our community. We told the truths that we live every day. We hoped you would listen. That's our job. It is deeply unsurprising to me that the community responded on Monday the way that they did. Because it's not just that one of our own has been silenced. It's that that's happened after a session of debating bills that only impact some of us and struggling to fight for equal treatment under the law. I will remind folks that the right to protest, and in fact the right to protest against the government, is a clearly held right in both the state constitution and the federal constitution, and we took oaths to protect those constitutions. I want to note for the record that my experience, personally, in this body and in this building, although I love my job, and I show up every day eager to do it, is that I have faced a series of offensive behaviors and offensive actions. There are people in this room who have said things about me in the press and online that I find deeply offensive. Deeply offensive. And I find that there's been a pattern of unwillingness to listen to a diverse set of opinions on the bills in front of us, and that is our job. I know without a doubt that there are deeply held disagreements about the bills that we hear, about the policies that we are debating. And those disagreements are part of the process. We have to be able to discuss them, even when it's uncomfortable. I know that we have rules. The speaker before me laid them out in some clarity. I believe that those rules must be held not to protect us as individuals, our feelings, our experiences, but to protect the process, to protect our job, the work that we are doing to pass bills and policies that touch the lives of every Montanan in this state. And that is where I think we have gone deeply wrong in this process. Because we are considering these rules not to protect the rights of all of us to engage in our democratic process, something I hold sacred, but instead to protect us as people, as individuals. It is time for us to put the work first. That's our job. We were not elected to come up here and put ourselves first. None of us were. I believe a yes vote on this motion puts our democratic process, our important jobs as legislators second, and puts our feelings and experiences first. And I think that's wrong. I think we have one shot to right this ship, and it's this vote. And I hope some of you will join me in voting red.
Representative Beatty.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak on this motion. The behavior of the representative of House District 100 has been in the news for over a week. And I must admit that opinions concerning her prior utterances vary, even within my caucus. But today we're not here to pass judgment on what might have been said or done before this past Monday, but rather to consider the specific actions that we're taking on a specific day. Now, it's an irrefutable fact that the representative in question did indeed actively support and arguably incite the disruptive antics of demonstrators who had gathered in the House gallery. But it's also true that the representative had other options. One was to join other legislators by leaving the floor as was directed by the Speaker. Another would have been to try to calm the crowd. The representative of House District 100 chose neither. And so here we are. As a consequence of the representative's actions, the orderly workings of this body had to be suspended so that we could not proceed with doing our duty, which is to conduct the business of all citizens of Montana. This is an assault on our representative democracy. Spirited debate and the free expression of ideas cannot flourish in an atmosphere of turmoil and incivility. Undoubtedly, some will cast and indeed have cast this matter in terms of freedom of speech or the oppression of a minority. I would argue it is neither. Rather, what is at stake is the expectation that any member of this body, whoever that might be, has a duty to strive to maintain decorum so that the people's work, the work of all Montanans, can be accomplished. The representative of House District 100 failed to do her duty. Worse yet, she actively participated in disrupting the lawful activities of this legislature. Such behavior must have consequences if we are to keep our processes in place, the processes that serve all Montanans. And for that reason, I must support the motion that is before us today, and I urge you to do so as well. Mr. Speaker.
Minority Leader Abbott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members, I think most of you know I wish we were debating other things on this floor today, and I wish the gallery was full of Montanans engaging in the legislative process. I wish a lot of things, but that's not where we are. Mr. Speaker, I disagreed with your decision not to recognize the representative in seat 31, and you know that because we discussed it. I told you that I thought there were other paths that we could take, House Rule 2080 being the clearest one. It would have allowed for us to have debates on hard issues and maintain order. That is a tool that was available to us, and I think it's important that we talk about how we got here, and you didn't take that tool. And there's one person that had the ability to avoid being on this floor right now debating this motion, and it wasn't the representative in seat 31. And now we're far beyond the rules that allow us to debate issues here. I agree with other speakers on my side of the aisle that we are in first principles, we are in democratic principles, we are talking about constitutionally protected rights and the very nature of a representative democracy, ensuring that 11,000 people have proper representation. And today, I'm standing up for those first principles, and I'm standing up for democracy, and I'm going to vote against this motion. But it should not go without saying, and I think it's obvious to a lot of us, that there is an opportunity cost to choosing this path. We don't have a state budget. We don't have a plan for housing. We don't have a plan for childcare. We don't have a plan for permanent property tax relief. We don't have a plan for mental health. We don't have a plan for provider rates. And today we're on this floor debating this motion, and hopefully we can get back to work. I sure hope so. But today I'm going to vote in support of constitutional principles. And you know what? I agree that you absolutely can do this by rule, by the Constitution, by Masons, But just because you can do it does not mean that's the right choice. I think it's the wrong choice. I hope we don't make it today, but if we do, we'll have to move on and see if we can get the work of Montanans done. But today I have to show Montanans that we care about these first principles first, and we'll deal with our business later. I hope you vote no. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Moore.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members of the body, I stand here in favor of the motion that is before us. The offense that occurred on April 24th by the representative of House District 100 is irrefutable. We all witnessed firsthand the violations that have already been articulated, and were also witnessed throughout local and national media. There's a fundamental human principle that each of us are responsible for our actions for ourselves, and we bear the consequences of our behavior and our actions. Today, I would like to focus more on the reasonableness of the motion. We're not wanting to ignore what happened, nor are we wanting to overreact. The disciplinary actions that are proposed, from my perspective, are reasonable and prudent, and the measures proposed ensure the safety of the body and all who participate in the work of the House. With these articulated consequences, let's clearly understand that the representative continues to serve our state. The representative will continue to have the opportunity to serve District 100, vote on all bills before the floor of the House, and to complete the 2-year term. It's my opinion that the discipline proposed is fair and reasonable given the circumstances. This motion allows the representative to serve constituents and provides an opportunity to re-engage with the entire body in the future. I am hopeful that we will be able to complete our current session in the coming days with honor, finishing well. I am also hopeful that the representative being disciplined will understand the significance of the actions taken on April 24th, and that future engagement with this body will resume. My desire is that this session and the sessions before us will have lively debates, respecting one another, and continuing to serve Montanans well. I urge your support for this motion.
Majority Vinton, would you care to close on your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members. We have heard the debate. We were all present and observed the conduct of the representative from House District 100 on April 24th. This conduct cannot be allowed to stand. Our constituents and our state deserve better. They deserve our full attention, and this institution and body deserve the respect of all its members. However, it has not been respected, and we must regain the decorum of this body, not only now, but also to set precedent for the future. Therefore, good cause has been established, and I urge the body to vote in favor of this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members, this is a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the majority leader's motion vote aye. Those opposed vote no. Clerk, record the vote. Are there absentee votes?
Mr. Speaker, Representative Weatherwax votes no.
Clerk, record the vote.
Mr. Speaker, 68. Representatives vote aye, 32 have voted no.
Motion passes. Majority Leader Vinton.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House adjourn and reconvene Thursday, the 83rd legislative day at 8 a.m.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed no, and the ayes have it, and the House will reconvene at 8 a.m. on Thursday, April 27th. The House is adjourned.
All right, so as you just saw, the House has voted to discipline, if you will, House Representative Zooey Zephyr. She is allowed to continue to participate in the legislative session, but only by voting remotely for the rest of the session in the 8 days that are left. She is not allowed on the House floor, the House anteroom, or the House gallery. You heard some of the testimony there, including from her. She spoke for about 5 minutes. We're hoping to hear from her soon. She might be catching up with some of our reporters, and if so, we will listen to her live. She basically said that the legislature was asking her to be silent and complicit, using decorum as a tool of oppression, and she says she's watching the legislature systematically attack the LGBTQ community, and regardless of the circumstances and the punishment she would receive, she will always stand up for her community and the 11,000 constituents that she represents here in Missoula. So we're watching her now leave the House. We are going to have full coverage of this for you coming up on our stations. It looks like we may be hearing from her in just a moment. As you can imagine, it's a little bit chaotic there. Hugging a fellow lawmaker who spoke in defense of her today. Talking about sometimes you have to make the tough choices.
I feel, when you stand up for your principles, when you stand up for your community, when you stand up for democracy, no matter what the vote comes out, you leave feeling like you did the right thing. And that's what I feel today. I stood up for my constituents who elected me here, and I stood up for democracy.
Was there part of you that thought it might go down differently?
I think, I don't believe the speaker would have made, or the majority leader would have made a motion she didn't have the votes for, so I expected that. Yeah.
How do you make sure your voice is heard now?
So, one, I vote. Two, I still do the remainder of our committee work. But three, it's important to acknowledge that based on the actions today, every bill that we debate for the rest of the session, there will be 11,000 Montanans whose voices aren't heard. That includes our budget. That includes housing bills. The Speaker's decision today continues to remove 11,000 Montanans from the process. And by the Speaker's decision, I mean the body's decision.
So you're going to have to vote remotely now?
Yes.
So you won't be allowed on the floor?
Based on the motion, or based on the vote, I will not be allowed on the floor, in the gallery, or the antechamber, thereby shutting out 11,000 Montanans from participating in the debate on the bills that we have remaining for this session.
It sounds like you'll still be able to participate in committees. Is that your understanding as well?
That is my understanding, but it's also the committee chairs may make their decisions, and also committee work is wrapping up rapidly. I don't know how many days we have left in committee.
What's next for you today after this? What are you doing?
I will do what I have always done, which is I will prepare for the bills. I will make sure I know what I would say on them. Were I allowed to speak, I will continue to represent my community and stand up for the values they sent me here to uphold.
Do you have any regrets about the way that you acted on the 24th?
When you shut out 11,000 Montanans from the democratic process, it is no surprise that those Montanans would come and show up and demand that their voices be heard. And I stood up in solidarity with them, and I would do it every day, because when I do so, I stand up for democracy. And if there's comments about civil disobedience, they join, the protesters on Monday join a long line of people who have stood up for democracy, and those in charge have taken offense to that.
If you could do this over, would you do anything differently?
I am proud for standing up for my community, and I would never change standing up for my community and my constituents.
Even if it blocks your voice?
I will continue to represent my community as best I can in this body, but when we come to this body, again, as you heard Minority Leader Abbott say, we have all of these things to do, but underpinning them are the first principles of democracy. And if we cannot stand up for those first principles, who are we as legislators to be here?
Do you plan to run again next cycle for this?
Yes, I will be here as long as the constituents of my House district deem me to be the person they want to represent them in the People's House of Montana.
Is there any plan to fight against the decision that was made, further demonstrations, or is it okay? Any appeals?
Those conversations are ongoing in terms of appeals and legal stuff and everything there. I don't have an answer to that. In terms of demonstrations, I don't know.
Do you want to fight the outcome of this vote?
Depends what you mean by fight the outcome of this vote. Like I will do everything in my power to represent the community that sent me here.
Do you feel supported by your party?
Yes. I feel, there are 32 different voices in the caucus, just like there are 100 different voices in the chamber. But what you saw today was Democrats stood up for democracy today. They stood up for the first principles that we are sent here to defend.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, you were just hearing Zooey Zephyr, the House representative from District 100 here in Missoula, where today the House voted that she can still participate in this 68th session, but only by voting for the rest of the 8 days that remaining. She is not allowed on the House floor. She is not allowed in the anteroom or in the House gallery. And as she said in her speech, she basically knew the consequences, but what she needs to do is stand up for the community she represents, and sometimes you have to make the hard and moral choices, and that is what led to our discussion and this vote today. There is a whole lot to unpack about what happened in Helena today. We have our reporters across the state diving into every aspect of it, the history of this, what comes next, and how we got here. So be sure to watch tonight on your MTN station at 5:30. Thank you so much for watching us this afternoon. We'll see you back here later.